Have you ever taken one of those online personality tests and just thought, wow, that is so me? We've all been there, right? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the world of personality types. We're talking everything from those viral quizzes you see all over social media to the really serious science that's being used in corporate boardrooms and, believe it or not, even on the battlefield.
Hello to all viewers of my channel. Okay, just look at this. In South Korea, you might actually need to put your MBTI type on your resume. I mean, let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some fun little thing you put on your dating profile anymore. For some, it's a critical piece of data that employers are looking at. This huge explosion in popularity, it really shows just how much we all want to understand ourselves, to find our tribe. But what are these tests really telling us?
All right, so let's get into it. This whole idea of sorting people into these neat little types, it's not some new internet trend. Not at all. Its roots go way back to the early days of modern psychology, and it pretty much all starts with one very, very famous name.
So what's fascinating here is this fork in the road. It all begins in 1921 with the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. He laid all the groundwork. But then his ideas kind of went down two totally separate paths. Over in the US, you have the mother-daughter duo, Katharine Briggs and Isabel Myers, who developed what we now know as the MBTI. But at the same time, behind the Iron Curtain back in the 70s, a Lithuanian researcher developed a really similar system called Socionics. Both are sorting people into 16 types, both are based on how we process information, and both started with Jung, but they grew up in completely different worlds. Pretty wild, right?
And at the heart of both of these systems are four fundamental questions, these dichotomies. First up, where do you get your energy? Are you an extrovert, powered up by the world around you, or an introvert, who recharges in their own inner world? Next, how do you take in information? Do you lean towards sensing, so focusing on concrete facts, what's right in front of you, or are you more about intuition, looking for patterns and possibilities? Then, how do you make decisions? Is it all about objective thinking for you, or is it guided by subjective feeling? And lastly, how do you like to live your life? Do you prefer a structured, organized, judging kind of lifestyle, or are you more of a flexible, spontaneous, perceiving type? Your answers to these four questions combine to give you one of those 16 personality types.
So there you have it. These neat little categories, right? 16 tribes we can all belong to. And it feels good, it's fun, it's satisfying, and it is absolutely everywhere. But this brings us to the big, critical question. Is any of this actual science? I mean, are the letters ending up on resumes really backed by anything solid?
And yeah, this is where the story gets a little complicated. Because while literally millions of people feel completely seen by their results, the vast majority of the modern psychology community, they are deeply skeptical. Let's dig into why that is.
Okay, so one of the biggest reasons these tests feel so incredibly accurate is something called the Forer effect, or sometimes the Barnum effect. Think about it, it's the exact same reason horoscopes can seem so spot on. The descriptions are just vague enough and just positive enough that pretty much anyone can see themselves in them. I mean, if a test tells you you're an innovative thinker who values independence, who's going to argue with that, right?
And this really gets to the core of the scientific problems here. First off, the reliability is not great. If you take the test just a few weeks apart, there's about a 50-50 shot you'll get a totally different result. Then there's validity, which is also pretty weak. It doesn't actually predict how well you're going to do in a job. The whole thing creates these false choices, right? It forces you to be either an introvert or an extrovert, when the reality is that most of us are somewhere in the middle. It's a spectrum. And on top of all that, a lot of the studies that say it works, well, they're funded by the very company that sells the test. That's a huge conflict of interest.
So if the whole 16-type model is basically a fancy horoscope, then what do actual psychologists use? Well, that's where we meet the Big Five. This is the model that is widely considered the gold standard in personality science today.
Instead of just 4 letters, the Big Five uses 5 different spectrums. You can remember it with the acronym OCEAN. So, O is for openness to experience. Are you someone who's super imaginative and curious, always up for trying new foods or checking out an art museum? Or are you more practical and cautious, preferring routine and the familiar? And the key thing here is, neither is better than the other. They're just different ways of being in the world.
Next up, C stands for conscientiousness. This one is all about your level of organization and self-discipline. Think of that person whose desk is always perfectly neat versus someone who kind of thrives in that creative chaos. If you score high in conscientiousness, it means you're probably pretty reliable and detail-oriented.
Then we've got E for extroversion. Now this one sounds familiar, right? But the huge difference here is that it's a scale, not a box.
It's all about how much energy you get from being around other people. It's not as simple as being loud or quiet, it's really about where you recharge your batteries. Do you need to be in a crowd, or do you need some quiet time alone?
Okay, A is for agreeableness. This dimension is all about your tendency to be compassionate and cooperative. So, are you the kind of person who's always the first to offer help on a group project? Or are you more likely to challenge ideas, to play devil's advocate, to make sure you get the best possible result? Both approaches definitely have their place.
And finally, we have N for neuroticism. Now, this is basically a measure of emotional stability. It's about how prone you are to experiencing negative emotions like anxiety or stress. Someone with a low score is generally pretty resilient, while a higher score might just mean you're a bit more sensitive to life's ups and downs.
And this, right here, is the most important difference. The Big Five doesn't shove you into a box. It places you on 5 different continuous scales. So you're not just an introvert, period. You're someone who scores, I don't know, at the 35th percentile for extroversion. It captures all the nuance, all the complexity of who we really are, in a way that those rigid types just can't.
And believe me, this is not just some dusty academic exercise. This scientifically backed model has some profound, real-world applications that go way, way beyond just being a bit of fun. I mean, look at this. Huge companies, we're talking Google, Microsoft, Deloitte, they use the Big Five for hiring and for building effective teams. It just makes sense, right? They know a sales role is probably going to need someone high in extroversion, while a data analyst really needs to be high in conscientiousness. Someone who is highly agreeable is going to thrive in a team setting, while someone with lower agreeableness might be perfect for a really competitive field like law. See? It's all about matching traits to tasks, not slapping labels on people.
But the applications go even deeper than the corporate world. This model is a vital tool for things like career counseling, helping people find a path that's genuinely fulfilling. And it plays a critical role in really high-stakes fields, like military psychology, where understanding someone's personality can literally be a matter of life and death. And this becomes crystal clear when you look at the data. A 2023 study of Ukrainian combat veterans found something really powerful. Soldiers who scored higher on agreeableness, conscientiousness, and openness were way more likely to experience something called post-experiential growth after being in combat. So understanding these traits isn't just about job performance, it's about predicting resilience, and it's about finding pathways to healing.
So where does that leave us? After going through all of this, what's the big takeaway? We've got these 2 very different ways of looking at personality. One is incredibly popular, and the other one is scientifically solid.
And I think it all comes down to this core idea, the box versus the mirror. Popular tests like the MBTI, they give you a simple, satisfying box to fit inside. It's a label. It makes you feel like you belong to a group. But the scientific models, like the Big Five, they offer something totally different. They offer a mirror, a complex, nuanced mirror that reflects who you actually are across all these different dimensions. And that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you to think about. Look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the fun of finding your type. But when it comes to truly, deeply understanding yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your real potential for growth, what are you looking for? Are you reaching for a simple label to fit into, or are you looking for a tool that can reflect your true, messy, wonderful complexity? At the end of the day, the choice is yours. Subscribe to the channel and like, and also suggest your topics for future videos in the comments.